Welcome to I Said What I Said, a sports podcast with opinions not heard anywhere else. I am your host, Brad Wakai, coming to you live from Brooklyn, New York. That is my co-host, Tyson Gentry, coming to you live from Missoula, Montana. Today, we're back on the hardwood covering the NBA playoffs, second round. Ton of interesting stuff going down. We're going to talk Lakers, Warriors. We're going to talk Sixers, Celtics. We're going to hit the entire series and give you what we think. But Tyson, there was some news coming down, and we thought it could be expected, but the Bucks have officially fired Mike Budenholzer.
I thought winning the finals was going to get him quite the cushion, and it seemed like that ran out pretty quick. Honestly, you can't lose in the first round to the Miami Heat, who are really a 9 seed, and we're lucky to be here because of the play-in and blah, blah, blah. Who cares? But it's Miami Heat, it's playoffs, whatever. It doesn't matter, man. If you're racking up 60-win regular seasons, this is what this guy does. And, like, the 2021 NBA Finals, is that when it was?
Yep,
When
2021.
they beat Phoenix. Looks a lot more like an anomaly with his playoff success, with everything else around it. You can go all the way back to the early days, pretty much like Atlanta, all that stuff with this guy. It's just 60 wins, no heart, bounced. And then they win the finals, and I was like, oh, it's Milwaukee. They do things kind of a little bit differently. He's going to get a hell of a lot of leeway. Yanked, man. And I'm not surprised, but I'm a little bit like, it took me I was shocked just to learn that like it was this quickly after they've been eliminated. But I think maybe they're trying to be first in the market.
I think so too. And I think he did get some leeway after he won the championship. There were still a lot of people who did not believe in him, even when they won the championship. I think basically what the reports are going to be coming out, me, yeah, pointing at the camera, both of us, honestly, um, that there were some non-believers in that building even after they won. And it did give him some leash and a lot of leeway. And I think there were some murmurs in the building after they lost last year where it was like, oh boy, well, they didn't make the Eastern Conference Finals last year. But it was like, I don't know if this is the right guy for the job. But, it's been a year removed since he won a championship. Let's see how it goes. And this year was a disaster for the Bucks. And I get it. Like, they won. They had the best record in the entire league in the regular season. He had to deal with injuries and all that. But listen, it completely backfired on him in the playoffs like it always does. And when you have Giannis, and it didn't seem like he was too happy this season, and it didn't seem like a lot of the things going the Bucks' way in the playoffs, and it didn't seem like he could make adjustments, there's going to be somebody who gets the leash or gets the yank, and it was Budenholzer, because it's not going to be Giannis. That's for damn sure. We know that about the NBA.
Yeah. Well, it shouldn't have been Giannis either, is the thing. Like, yes, he got hurt and whatever, but that's your superstar, that's your $400 million man when everything's said and done. Like the stuff he does for that city, like he's making Milwaukee a hell of a lot of money. And Mike Budenholzer is kind of widely considered in NBA circles, at least from what we hear and what we read, is like, this guy he's really smart. Can he talk to people? Can he get people motivated? Can he lead these guys to do what they need to do? Because Drew Holiday shows up and the team has a new look and a little facelift. And then 2 years of playing under Mike Budenholzer, and it looks a lot more like the Bucks that won. What was it? They won like 60 games his first year in Milwaukee, didn't they? And this team reminded people, me and you at least, of kind of that team, because we all talk about the defense and how efficient it is and everything else like that. But as soon as there's like one obstacle in his way, he can't figure it out. Whether it was the wall that Miami built in the bubble, right, in 2020, nobody could challenge him because nobody was fucking with Giannis when they won the title. And then when Giannis isn't playing, it's like, oh, we actually don't have sets that get Middleton open that like Drew Holiday has to create by himself. You're kind of looking at a bunch of others who play really well off Giannis, but they don't know how to play when he's not on the court. And that's not a Giannis problem. Like that's a coaching issue.
I think what really did it too was not calling a timeout during that last sequence of the most important game. And then the reporter at the press conference asked him, hey, why don't you call a timeout? And he was just, he was like, did I have timeouts? Like he completely forgot he had timeouts. And it happened multiple times in the series. And that's can't happen when you're the head coach of the basketball team with arguably the greatest player in the world on your team, and you've come up short the last 2 years. So I don't think it, honestly, I think it's surprising more so, Tyson, that 2 years removed from that championship, that the Bucks actually had the balls to fire him.
Right.
Because you know how sometimes, like we're talking about, like we thought he would have some leeway. Maybe they're like, well, everything's fine. We'll just run it back. I think there was more problems underneath the surface. I commend the Bucks for doing it because, as we're seeing, it's not like the Celtics. I mean, they're a really good team. It's not like they have a monopoly on this conference. Like, it should be the Bucks and it should be the Celtics going back and forth. And it seems like the Celtics are still a step above, even with their own coaching change. And the Bucks need to get to that point where they have the best player in the world, that they are running this conference, and it hasn't happened under Budenholzer.
Well, he's a floor raiser and not necessarily ceiling raiser, which you can disagree with because he won a title, but that might have been the damn floor for that team. Like the way they walked in the playoffs, it was like, I don't know what anybody's going to do with these guys. He's going to fit in great wherever he goes next, and they'll win more games than they did previously. Like, this is a guy that he's going to ride off in the sunset in Orlando, or he's going to ride off in the sunset in Houston, or wherever. Pick a low-level franchise. Maybe not those two, because they're not exactly looking for head coaches at the moment, but you get the picture. He can walk into somewhere with a young, established player, and they'll be better. But he's not going to walk into, say, Phoenix, if they move on from Monty Williams, and then make them instantly like, oh, wow, that changes the entire spectrum of the NBA. He's not that guy.
No, and let's talk about the Bucks, so we can talk about Budenholzer's landing spot. Who do you think the Bucks should go after? Like we talked about it a little bit before we hopped on here. Like Nick Nurse seems like a logical one here. You said Ime Udoka's pissed that he took the Rockets job, not thinking that this thing would even be
too
open.
Quick, man.
Right? I think Nick Nurse is logical if you're looking at it from a guy who can come in and talk about raising a ceiling. I mean, what that guy did with the Raptors a few years ago was super impressive. But other than like a Nick Nurse, the obvious one, is there anybody that you think they should go after?
No, and I honestly think that if it's Milwaukee, it's going to be an assistant from somewhere that, like, pick a team in the NBA that's been really good for the last 5-6 years. Like, that's the assistant coach that they'd have. The Jason Kidd thing went poorly fast, right? I mean, he had Larry Sanders, was it? That was like, he sent him to the hospital, and like, we know Jason Kidd can't coach. That was proven again this year. Then they go out and they get the nice, stable guy. They get the family man in the building, and I kind of think that's the way they like to roll. Like, we're a team, we're all together. Let's do this. Nick Nurse would be super fun, but can Giannis play 45 minutes a fucking game? Because that's how Nick Nurse likes to run his things. The other part is, like, the window is not necessarily as open for Milwaukee as we thought it was.
Right.
Brook Lopez was awesome this year. How long does that last? It doesn't last at all any longer. How long can you keep these three guys in Middleton, Holiday, and Giannis happy together and winning and playing well? Because there's been some question marks around Chris Middleton since they've won that title as far as health, and I don't think on the court, but like, you still have one of the 3 or 4 best players in the world. This is if there's a Doc Rivers on the coaching market, that's his spot, but there won't be. And so I think, like, you're getting a Oklahoma City assistant that nobody's ever heard of that's going to come in here and win 51 games next year, and this team's going to be playing in the conference finals.
Yeah, I would maybe a Kenny Atkinson. I mean,
like
I know he's better with like younger teams and kind of building them up, but maybe this is a spot he leaves Golden State for, because he turned down the Houston job or the Hornets job after accepting it initially, and then went back to Golden State. Is this the one he leaves for? And I agree with you on the timeline thing, Chris. We got to talk about health here. I mean, Giannis got hurt again. 2 years in a row that he got banged up. Drew Holiday, it seems like he's an Iron Man, but before this, when he was on the 76ers and kind of bouncing around from a few different destinations, he picked up some nagging injuries. And Chris Middleton, I mean, it's a reoccurring thing now. And Brook Lopez, like you said, the age, he's not getting younger. The role players, I mean, they picked up Joe Ingles, who had to play meaningful minutes. Grayson Allen did not live up to expectations when he came over quite as expected. Pat Connaughton's taken a step back from what he was when they won the championship. So I think there needs to be like some actual roster turnover in this thing.
Well, you didn't name any spring chickens.
Right.
Like, those are guys that, like, you hear Drew Holiday and you think, oh, he's 26. Just because, like, that's the way our brains work, kind of. But I don't know. At least for me, like, when there was it 2 titles in 1 calendar year and 3 in like a year and a half, kind of messed everything up. So all these guys stayed the same age in my head, and you like look at it and it's like, oh, I don't know how much longer Chris Middleton plays at a high level. We think Drew Holiday is okay, even Grayson Allen. It's like, we're farther removed from everybody being pissed off at that guy at Duke than you would think, or most people would think, because that feels like 3 years ago, and
Right.
he's been kicking around the league for a minute. They need a youth infusion, man, because this was a low energy effort for the Milwaukee Bucks, and that's kind of the rub, and that's why Mike Budenholzer doesn't have a job at the moment.
And the defense was horrible, which is something that hasn't really applied to the Bucks. Even when they had Giannis and Brook Lopez, who were great defenders this year on the court, it was horrible. Now let's close this thing out with talking about Bud's next landing spot. Honestly, and we talked about this, and when we first talked about him getting fired in this segment, you made me think. I think the Pistons should go after Budenholzer. That seems like a perfect spot for him. Somebody who's going to come in and gel a team together. This feels like a young team who just kind of needs to be pieced together in a way, like come together instead of doing AAU shit that you've been doing, because you guys, they're all young players, like learn how to play in the NBA, learn how to do different things. I think the Pistons should take a really strong look at him. Other than that, I'm like looking around the league. I mean, Houston has their guy with Udoka. I think that's a home run hire for them. Does the Hornets job open up? Is that something that
Do you
becomes
want the
available?
Hornets job?
Yeah, do you want it, especially leaving Milwaukee? So I think for me, the Pistons would be a slam dunk if they, for both sides.
I think he's going home, man. I think he's going to go sit the bench for a year in San Antonio, and then reevaluate things in a year, because that's the way it works in the NBA. Is you can get fired and you can be a coach that people don't really like, but you get a year off, and then it's like, oh, Mike Budenholzer, NBA champion. Like,
Yeah.
let's go get that guy. Maybe a different job opens up. Whether it is Phoenix, if things don't go well there, if it's Dallas, kind of take your pick. I just I don't know. I'm really feeling San Antonio. This is a spot he was at for 15 years, from like 96
Yeah,
to like
long time.
2012, something like that. So like he knows the organization knows him. And honestly, like it's been a lot for this guy. And so I don't know if you want to go jump right back on the saddle. Although if the Pistons get the number one pick, then like I want to coach Cade and Wemby and all those guys.
Oof. That'd be a good team. All right, let's get into the second round playoffs here, Tyson. We got to start with the Lakers Warriors. It feels like that's the main event of the second round. And may it have something to do with that first game, because that game was electric. I mean, talk about Anthony Davis was always going to be the X factor here. 30 points, 23 rebounds, was completely dominant, had 4 blocks. I mean, he was the best player on the floor. Warriors do not have a matchup for him. But on the other side of things, the Lakers don't really have a matchup for the shooting. And as you saw, it was bombs away for the Warriors. And the Lakers did just enough. Quite honestly, if you look why, it was the free throw line. Like, they shot way more free throws than the Warriors. I think that was extremely questionable to me when I was watching the game. But it's going to be the math problem here. And it's going to be, is Anthony Davis engaged enough? And we're recording this before game 2 on Thursday. I expect the Warriors to win that, so we can talk about it from 2 different angles, but I think this is going to be 1-1 going to LA. But Tyson, what do you think about game 1 before we move on to like the rest of the series?
Well, we're not getting out of a Lakers Warriors segment without talking. Kayvon Looney was fucking Dennis Rodman. I keep cursing on here. I apologize. But like that was ridiculous for me. I mean, the dude was getting every single miss for a while. It felt like it didn't really matter because Steph Curry wasn't really Steph Curry for the first time in a couple weeks, really. I mean, he had an off night or two against Sacramento, but like this is a guy that just put 50 up in a closing effort. You think he's going to come out hot and firing. Not really. Klay Thompson was good, wasn't great. Jordan Poole was Jordan Poole. Like, that's just who you get. Those shots are going to go in. They're going to keep taking them. LA doesn't make threes. And so they have to pound the glass. They have to get in the lane. They have to go to the free throw line. They shot the most free throws in the league, and opponents took the least amount against them. The Warriors took like the 25th most free throws in the league, and like their opponents took the most. So I think that's just going to be the way the series plays out. But those shots are going to go in, man. I have a really hard time believing the best jump shooting team of all time is going to put up another. I wouldn't say they were laying bricks, man, but there was a lot of times where it was like, oh God, these guys, those fall. 50% of the time these guys shoot them, and you just got lucky they're 6 for 16.
Yeah, and the Lakers give up a lot of open looks to the Grizzlies, and that's one of the things. Like they're really good at packing in the paint and making it difficult for driving and allowing you to take open threes. And the Grizzlies just can't shoot, and so that worked against Memphis. In this game, The Warriors hit 21 of 53 attempts. So they shot right around 40%, which is like, that sounds good. But when you look at the attempts they were getting, I mean, they damn near could have made 30 of those shots. Like they were open. Jordan Poole, I mean, he did have a good game when you really look into it. I mean, 7 of 15, hit 6 threes out of 11 attempts.
When you look at the box score, he had a good game. But I wasn't like, I don't know. Like, it doesn't feel like last year when Jordan Poole was cooking, the Warriors loved it. And everybody was into it, and the bench is jumping. And now it's like, the guy takes a 40-footer at the end of the game, and everybody on the court is pissed. A year ago, it was like, yeah, take that shot.
That's an interesting point. Definitely. I mean, to your point as well, Clay, 9 of 25, did hit 6 threes, but went 6 of 16. Curry, 10 of 24, 6 of 13 from 3, only ended up with 27. So, like you said, you look at the box score, you're like, well, the Warriors actually had a pretty good game. But I think when you watch it, there were so many moments that they hit or that they missed untimely shots. Like, this was the momentum swinger. They could have put it into like the Lakers' little mini run, missed it. Lakers go down, go to the free throw line. Just little things like that when you watch the game. And then cleaning the glass here. This is something interesting I looked at. Cleaning the glass, effective field goal percentage here. They both shot around 50%. Points per possession, the Lakers 116, the Warriors 112. So the Lakers were in the 61st percentile, the Warriors in the 47th. When's the last time they've been in the under 50% of a points per possession for the Warriors? Now, this was the one that jumped out. The free throw rate, the Lakers in the 88th percentile, about 27 attempts, 27.2. The Warriors were in the 1 percentile of the playoffs. Like, they were literally in the bottom. So, like, they have to get to the line more, and they got blocked 10 times in the game. So, I don't expect that to happen. I mean, Jared Vanderbilt did a good job kind of running Curry off those screens. But Tyson, the starters played damn near the entire second half.
Played the whole time.
Anthony Davis didn't come out in the second half. When's the last time that happened?
Probably New Orleans, Kentucky. Like, if I had to guess. I thought Schroeder actually played really good defense too, which is like anytime you get that in your LA, that's a huge boost. But we've said it time and time again, man. I keep saying it. When Anthony Davis plays like this, what are you supposed to do? This is like, it's top 5. When Anthony Davis is Anthony Davis, I mean, there's no other non-center big outside of Giannis that you would want. So, and that to me, like, it's Jokic, it's Embiid, it's Giannis, it's AD, and you can kind of pick and choose on certain nights because in game 1, Anthony Davis was better than all those guys. And when he's like that and he's active and he's engaged, you're pretty much screwed. And for Golden State, you got to find an answer because the Lakers don't have the answer to the test, but like, the book's out on Golden State. It's just nobody can actually make them continuously miss shots, whether you're all the way up on them, whether you're letting them stay wide open, drop coverage or pressing, whatever you want to do, double teaming, running with these guys coming around screens. The shots just find a way to go in. So you have to get 3 more nights like that if you're LA. And not to say that that's impossible, but we have a catalog of reasons why Golden State has the rings they do. And it's because they figure things out. And LA just said, this is how we're playing you for 7 games.
Well, we'll see if Davis can keep it up, right? Because he was great in game 1 of the series against the Grizzlies, horrible in game 2, great in game 3, horrible in game 4. So he's going to have to bring it every single night or else the Warriors will blow him out. And that's what I'm expecting in game 2 as we get into this. I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, listen, we always thought that this season the Warriors were vulnerable. It just happened that they beat the Kings in 7 games, a team who hadn't been there in forever and was a very young, inexperienced team, or pushed to the brink. Let's be honest. If Curry doesn't go for 50, they could be in trouble and sitting at home or doing Lakers Kings. But the Warriors, championship medal, get past it. If they don't win a game in Golden State, this thing is going to be over quick. And we don't expect that, to be honest. I think they'll win this one. Then I think they're going to have a dogfight, and they're going to have to try to split one on the road, which they weren't very good at. But if they do find a way to win in LA, okay, we got a best of 3, and 2 of them are in Golden State. If the Lakers find a way to win this one when everybody's expecting them to just kind of go through the motions, I hate to admit it, Tyson, this team may be legit, and they may be NBA like championship legit.
Oh, 100%. And we just got through that entire thing without mentioning LeBron James. Like that's the other part of the LA tandem of the duo there, and he wasn't like fantastic in game one. He, I think, struggled to shoot the ball for a long time. Finally, was it mid or end of third quarter? He made that three,
Yeah.
put him up by 10, and it was like, okay, you can exhale a little bit if you're a Lakers fan. At one of these games, he's going to go off because it's the playoffs. It's LeBron James. You could say he didn't go off against the Grizzlies. I don't mean on the stat sheet. I mean he's going to affect the game in a way that only he can, and only really he's been able to do for the last 15 years. Whether that is for 48 minutes remains to be seen. But Golden State's passed that test too, and that's what's hard for me right now. I thought Golden State was poor this year, but if they can't win at home, and this is the Golden State Warriors on the road trying to hang in this series, this thing is a wrap.
LeBron, yeah, that's definitely struggled in game one. We got to see what he does. But this is the heavyweight fight, man. This is the one that people want to see. We got game two, as Tyson and I are recording on Thursday. We'll see what happens. What Lakers may be content with their split on the road and heading back to LA. Warriors want to stay in this series. They got to win tonight. That's a fact. Now let's get into your guys here, the Suns and the Nuggets. Now I got to admit here, I got to eat some crow on this one because I thought this was a great matchup for the Suns against the Nuggets. Clearly, that has not come to fruition here. And a lot of the things that people were talking about, like the lack of scoring from the bench, that's clearly come to fruition. I did not expect that to be the case necessarily, but I also didn't expect Kevin Durant to be absolutely dreadful in game two. And I see people talking about, well, the bench isn't scoring. But you also, if you're the Suns and this is your current situation, your current roster alignment, you can't have Kevin Durant play so poorly, because if he does that, then the team's clearly at a disadvantage against anybody. Like, it doesn't have to be the Nuggets, can be the freaking Kings. Like, you can't have your number two guy who you gave up assets for perform the way he did in game two. And the Nuggets have taken advantage of it, man. Like, Jokic is controlling this entire game. DeAndre Ayton, and that was our concern coming into this thing. Is he engaged enough? Is he going to do enough to put pressure on Jokic?
Is he
and clearly
good
the
enough?
answer is no. Oh, we knew he wasn't good enough to do that, but you don't always have
even
to be
when
good
he's
enough to put
engaged
pressure.
is the thing. Is like,
There.
is this Jokic's first MVP season when Phoenix got him out of there in 4 games in the playoffs, and he clearly wasn't good enough to be stopping him, but he was active and he was engaged. And is Jokic so much better now that even when DeAndre Ayton's engaged, does it really matter? Because Phoenix just said Joker gets his and make everybody else beat us. I don't know who they were watching or what they were thinking, but this is the 2-time reigning, not anymore, no longer defending, shout out Joel Embiid,
yeah.
MVP of the NBA, and you had Jamal Murray play like crap in game 2 for his standards. You didn't get a whole lot from pretty much anywhere else, and Nikola Jokic beat you because Kevin Durant didn't play very well. Chris Paul, I think that injury is a way bigger deal than people want to talk about right now. It's unfortunate because he's not the scorer or anything like that people want him to be at this stage of his career. But the control that he has in the game in the fourth quarter was sorely missed for Phoenix, because that's when things started to go off the rails, was when, like, oh, man, we don't have the general bringing the ball up. Let's just throw this to KD on the elbow and hope something good happens. That's the other part, is this is who Phoenix is right now. That's what they do. Devin Booker can go 1-on-1 or 1-on-2 off the top and try to find somebody, or you throw it to Durant on the elbow. They were hunting threes in a way that they don't hunt threes, and it hurt them. They're in big, big trouble. Terrence Ross has to play. TJ Warren has to play, and there has to be some sort of influx of scoring from whether it's Cameron Payne or Monty's boy Landry Shamet. Somebody's got to be able to make the ball go through the hoop so that the Denver Nuggets aren't just like, yeah, you two can get 60. I don't care.
Yeah, Durant, 10 of 27, 2 of 12 from 3, Tyson. That's just flat out
turning the ball over like crazy both games.
Yeah, it's not that can't happen. Ayton was just 4 and 8 or 14 and 8. Come on, man. Like, you gotta have to be a workhorse. It clearly, Biyombo, when he's in there, the problem is he's not good enough on the offensive end. Like, he does bring the energy, he brings the effort, he rim runs, but he's not a good enough scorer. Like, at least Ayton, you can step out, hit an elbow jumper, you can provide different things. But that's kind of where the Suns are at right now. Like, I remember last year when everybody was talking about, well, you got to pay Ayton. Like, and we love inside the NBA. We love Kenny. We love Shaq. And we love Barkley. And they're like, you got to pay this kid if you're the Suns. I'm like, why? Like, what does he really add? Like, let him walk. Just go get another big and figure it out from there. Add other players. And yet we're talking about this bench. Like, they traded away. Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges. Yo, they were starters. Like, they weren't coming off the bench. Like, that's what was driving me crazy. It's like, well, they traded for Durant, so don't have a bench anymore. Like, well, they traded away 2 starters. So I don't really know where that's coming from. And Torrey Craig was moved back to the bench. I think because Monty thought that's going to help our bench scoring. He shot 2 shots, missed both of them. Like, he clearly wasn't the same guy in the first series as in this one, or that's because he was off the bench or not. But Tyson, where is Terrence Ross? He's your scorer. Like, we said he was going to get minutes in this one. Like, this is the series that he was going to get minutes because Porter Jr. is not a good enough defender. Like, if you, especially without Chris Paul, if you need other players to help out Durant and Booker to take off pressure, it's got to be some guys on the bench that you trust, and especially the ones that you acquired at the trade deadline to do that.
Yeah, to win in the NBA playoffs, you have to have at least one microwave. Have to. Somebody that can just come in, you press the button, give them the ball, and they get 3 minutes, and it's just boom, 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 boom. Like, J.R. Smith was so much more vital to those Cavs teams than anybody thought. Jordan Poole in Golden State has worked his way into being like a supercharged version of that, but the point stands. Everybody has one. And Phoenix is looking around for that right now, but the guy had 40 points like a month ago, dude. We were just talking about that. So that has to change. But the Nuggets have juice.
They do.
They got juice, man. And I think that's one thing that nobody's giving them credit for right now. Like, they are up for this series. They want to – like, they don't want to win in 7. I don't think they want to win in 6. They want to get this thing over with quickly. And by the way, when I was watching Game 2, is Nikola Jokic the kind of guy that you're fighting at the gym? Like, when you go play pickup and it's just he's slower than everybody. He's the guy always trying to get a game going. He's slower than everybody, and he's just working people.
Yeah.
Like, to see this dude do it in the NBA playoffs against Kevin Durant, against Devin Booker, and him and Booker were going at it to end the third quarter. I think Book scored 7 in a row for the Suns, and Jokic had 7 in a row for the Nuggets. It's really fun to watch, man. I just can't get it out of my head. Like, this is the dude, and when you're playing pickup, you're like, God damn it, he's here again.
Right. He's just leaning on you. You can't move him. You're like, oh, he's like sets like hard screens.
Just trying too hard. Yeah, it's a whole thing. But, man, is he good. And, like, Michael Porter Jr. has been okay. Jamal Murray wasn't good in Game 2. He's good in Game 1. But that's kind of the Jamal Murray you expect to get. So the fact Phoenix couldn't take one on the road when he had an off game might spell a quick series for Phoenix. But the flip side is, Brad, and I'm taking my son's hat off for this because I think they're, like, as a fan, I'm like, God damn it, they're cooked. We do this all the time. We just did it with the Warriors.
Right.
You go down 2 games, and then it's like, oh, this thing's over. And then they tie the series up, and it's like, oh, man, the Nuggets are on the ropes. So you have to be careful. Like, Phoenix has to win Game 3. Denver doesn't have to. But the way that the Nuggets are up right now, I think that's going to be an emotional game. I think we're getting some texts, all that good stuff. I think this is going to be real playoff basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, we just did this in the Warriors game. Kings go up 2-0. Oh, boy. Like, are the Kings sweeping the Warriors? Then they win 2. And it's like, yes, because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to take care of business at home. And Shaq says it all the time on Inside. Yeah, they're up 2-0. That's what you're supposed to do when you're a championship team inspiring to win a championship. Take care of business at home, go on the road and try to steal one. And it's the Suns' job now to hold their home court and then turn it into a 3-game series. Like, if the Suns win 2 games at home like they're supposed to, they're going to go back to Denver, and the winner of that game is probably going to win the series. And that's how NBA basketball works. And yet every single time, because these games are so far apart, we're thinking the Suns are dead. Well, here's what's going to happen. Terrence Ross is going to play because Monty Williams said that. There's going to be way more scoring on the floor for the Suns. They're not going to score 87 points again in the series. We'll never see that. And this is going to be a dogfight in Game 3. I expect the Suns to win, and I expect them to hold serve at home and go back to Denver tied 2-2. That's what I'm expecting.
If we get another Nuggets-Lakers conference finals, like 3 or 2 in the span of like 3 years, I'm gonna rage, man. I can't handle that as a Suns fan.
Let's move on to my team now, Tyson. 76ers, Celtics. And quite honestly, I'm feeling pretty good as a Sixers fan. I know we just got our ass beat, but listen, without Joel Embiid, James Harden turned back the clock, dropping 45, tying his playoff career high, stealing game one on the road. There are cracks in this Celtics armor that the Sixers, I think, can take advantage of. Brogdon buried shots. Derek White turned into Reggie Miller.
He was
You know
so
what?
good.
It was
He
fine in
was
game
so
two.
good.
Get it out of your system. Like everybody's like, "Oh yeah, Celtics now we're not nervous." I'm like, that's what they do. Did we not just watch it against the Hawks? They lose a stupid game, then they turn it on, then they kind of blow it or blow some things here and there, and then it looks bad. Because that's what the Celtics team is. Like this isn't the team from last year who was smoking the Eastern Conference, and they got taken to the brink against the Heat. So I'll push back a little bit, but there were some blowouts in that Eastern Conference Finals. But that's just what this team is. They're a roller coaster. They look great. Oh, look at this team. And then they drop their level down and they play down to a different level. I heard there was some criticism today. Stephen A. Smith was saying how, and I'm sure others were too. I just saw Stephen A. say it's like, I don't think it was smart to play Embiid. I push back on that a little bit. Like, do you want Embiid to come back in your most important game of the series and of the season, quite honestly, in game 3 without having live reps after hurting his knee? Like, I honestly thought it was good he was running out there. Like, get back in basketball shape as much as you can in one game. Get used to your teammates playing with you, and let's go back to Philly and see if we can go up 3-1. First going up 2-1, but like that's the attitude that the Sixers have to have right now.
So the same guy that said Kawhi Leonard, the Clippers should force Kawhi Leonard to retire because he didn't play, is now mad that Joel Embiid did play. And this is like sometimes when people wonder why these NBA players are dramatic or sensitive or whatever you want to call them, that's why. They're moving the goalpost. You can't win. Game 1 was electric. I think Malcolm Brogdon made the most college basketball play I've ever seen in the NBA at the end of the fourth when he turned and threw it to Maxey. The Sixers have some playoff players on their team, which is going to be coming really handy. And this is the first time in a while, I think, where you can look 1 through 8 or 1 through 9 and be like, yeah, that guy can play in this series for Philadelphia. When you were describing the roller coaster that is Boston, you could have just said Jason Tatum.
Fair.
I think that is that who he's turning into, which is I want this to be a 30-point-a-game guy. I mean, he was bad yesterday. It didn't matter. But, like, he's got to be better if Boston wants to not just win the series but win a title because that has to be the goal. You were just there. And Tatum can't have 8 points. It can't go 8-8-7 or whatever to win a title. And Joel Embiid is going to be – I'm hesitant to say this. Limited, I think is probably the right word. Is this vaunted Boston, we'll throw 10 bodies at you and we have all these athletes and we're super long and blah, blah, blah. Does that even matter? Is a limited Joel Embiid still going to be good enough to give you problems? Because I think so. And I honestly think James Harden yesterday took the night off. And he was like, I did my business. That was after game 1 when he was yelling at everybody. That's one game, get in the locker room. Everyone was acting like that was James Harden being a leader. Well, I think I texted you when I saw that. I was like, "Oh, Harden's like he didn't care about game 2." He's like, "We got our that we needed. I'm letting the legs rest a little bit. I'm going to get some cardio in, and we're going to call it good." Boston should be worried, man, because for the first time in a long time, Philadelphia is full of dogs.
Joel Embiid had 15 and 3 rebounds yesterday. He has destroyed Boston this season. Double-double every time he's played them. Just absolutely dominant on the interior. And the way the Celtics have beaten the Sixers team with Embiid, like this Joel Embiid era, is putting him in pick and rolls and screen and rolls and really isolating him out there. And you think that would be easier with the knee brace and with the knee situation now. But like you said, Tyson, the difference is PJ Tucker. Like he's doing a number on Tatum. Like this is what I'm happy that the Sixers finally got a little toughness because you can't be a Philly team and not have a dog. Like the Eagles have their dogs. When the Phillies got Bryce Harper, that's their dog. The Sixers just felt like some finesse team. Like we love JoJo, but let's be honest, man. I mean, he's doing a lot of this stuff for the camera. It feels like WWE sometimes. And PJ Tucker's not that guy. Like he's doing the dirty work. people are trying to make fun of him because he didn't take a single shot in like 36 minutes. I'm like, did nobody watch the game and what he was doing? Like, everybody just looks at the box score now? I'm like, he was so valuable to that team when the game they won, even without taking a shot. And that's the type of attitude he brings. So they do have some dogs, Tyson. Paul Reed is growing up before our eyes. Like,
It's
if he can
crazy.
actually spell Joel Embiid in some minutes, he's good on the perimeter. And if you can play them together, at some random times, just have Joel Embiid guard Al Horford, who quietly is starting to really, really regress, not hit shots like he used to. I can't get my hopes up just because it's the Sixers against the Celtics, and I've seen this movie one too many times. But I'll tell you, if there's ever a year to do it, it feels like this is the year.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be our classic NBA playoff series where it's going to be close game blowout, probably close game blowout, and back and forth that way. The Sixers don't make shots over and over and over again. They haven't done that all year long. They haven't done that in like a decade, really. Just like had a hot month of shooting the basketball. This is kind of a team that's like, hey man, we could score 140 on you, but tonight just feels like an 85-point game for us. Like it's okay, and Boston's fine playing that way. The concerning part, I think, if you're Philadelphia, is like Boston can go way deeper. They can dig guys out of the bench to play, whether it's I don't want to say Sam Hauser because he's not really playing, but like Peyton Pritchard, Robert Williams, Malcolm Brogdon, Grant Williams, Marcus Smart, Derek White, Al Horford, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. It's good enough to get you through as many series as you need. It's just those guys have to be better. I mean, we're talking about a team that won by 30 yesterday.
Yeah.
Like Jaylen Brown played well, Brogdon played well, Derek White played well, and everybody else was just kind of everybody else. So that part's scary if you're Philly. I don't think they're worried about it, man. This felt like a Doc Rivers and a James Harden. Let's kick the feet up.
Yeah, for sure. That's what it felt like to me, especially in that third quarter explosion. Boston couldn't hit a three. It was like, okay. I mean,
they weren't even closing.
Back it in. No, they weren't.
They were just like, whatever.
And here's how you know. So here's game one. Points per possession for the Sixers. They're in the 97th percentile. Their effective field goal percentage was in the 86th percentile, which is kind of crazy to think about. Now, in the flip side, game two, points per possession in the 5th percentile, and their effective field goal percentage was in the 4th. So not a good game for the Sixers. Not a good game at all. And like you said, this was what happens in these series. Could the Lakers be doing that tonight against the Warriors? We'll see. But hey, we won one on the road, stole one. Let's kick our feet up. Let's go back to Philly. We just did our job, and let's kind of figure it out at home. That's what it felt like to you and me.
Well, everybody wants teams to be the 2000 Lakers, and those don't exist.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of teams with Kobe and Shaq on them.
I don't know. Nobody's going 15-1, man. I mean, you're playing 30 games, you get to the playoffs.
Okay, let's get to the Knicks and the Heat because this has been an extremely interesting series to me. I'm not going to lie to you, from two different angles. I think when we talk about the Heat, and we said it in tongue in cheek, and we're like, oh, the Heat, God, we get so sick of them in the playoffs or in the regular season because it's like, oh, these guys don't need to try because when they get to the playoffs, they turn it on, and we're like, yeah, we'll see, and they do it every year. Like it really is just like. Not necessarily annoying because it's like impressive what they're doing this year, but it's just like, oh my God, of course. Like it just happens. It's almost like you just wish your team could do it.
Exactly
my
right.
team. It's like, right. And then maybe that's where it's stemming from. But when Jimmy Butler goes down in game 2 and the Heat should have won on the road, like let's be honest, they probably should have won that game. The ball hit the rim. It was not a shot clock violation. That's a layup. They're down one. Questionable calls towards the end of that game. This Knicks team's just not very good. That's like my takeaway. Like we kind of overvalued them. Like, wow, they destroyed the Cavs. Oh my God, if the Cavs, that means the Cavs are horrible because this Knicks team isn't very good. That's my takeaway so far.
Well, like Julius Randle finally looks like Julius Randle again, but he's doing it like against Kevin Love, which it's not the same thing, right? I mean, when Miami's rolling and playing well, there's just not a whole lot that I think the Knicks can do because Brunson's going to be playoff Brunson. I think this might be a thing now where like this guy is just going to get 30 every other night. And he's going to bulldog somebody, and you got to figure that out. RJ Barrett's been way better in the last 2 weeks than he was in the first 2 weeks of the playoffs. But it's like, are you really scared that Josh Hart is giving you – he had 14, 11, and 9 last night. And not once did it feel like the Heat were like, damn it. Like, we can't stop Josh Hart. This was like Jimmy Butler's not playing. Bam Adebayo's not shooting the ball. Like Gabe Vincent was good. Our boy Max Strus, Duncan Robinson got some burn, but this is the B team. And they lost by 6.
In a must-win spot, Tyson, at home without Jimmy Butler. And they were losing for a good amount of the time.
Yes.
That's, I think, the most concerning thing. It wasn't just like, oh, the Heat came back in the fourth when the Knicks kicked up their feet. No, it was the Knicks. They had to put the throttle down. Tom Thibodeau was getting so outcoached by Eric Spoelstra, and that's kind of what you expect in something like that. Like Spoelstra, there's just levels to it. Spoelstra is just so much higher on the totem pole than Thibodeau that even with the B team, he's taken guys on the Knicks and he's taken them to the brink without his star. Like it's
Tom
Heat
Thibodeau
culture, man. It's crazy.
Tom Thibodeau is cool Mike Budenholzer to kind of bring it all the way around. Like, we like him. Everybody likes him. But it's the same things apply that we said about Bud that we like. You can say about Tibbs. This is a interesting matchup in the fact that, like, I honestly anticipated more physicality throughout the first 2 games. We didn't really get that. I think it'll come as the series kind of lengthens because now, I mean, we're 1-1. We're 0-0. It's a 5-game series. Let's go play. Miami has a huge advantage in the fact that they have the best player in the series. They have the 3rd best player in the series, maybe, depending on the night for Bam.
They should.
Yes. They have the best coach in the series. They have better organization, better players, all that stuff. So it's really sounding like we're crapping on the Knicks here. New York should be happy that it's 1-1 right now, whether they were playing Miami or whether they were playing Milwaukee or whoever it was. Like, this is not where this series should be. You should be down 2-0. And you should have lost them both at home, man. And that's the crazy part is, like, the Garden's jumping. Everybody's happy. They're ready to roll. And, like, this is the juice that we're getting from you guys is having to outscore the Heat in the fourth quarter to take this thing home.
Without Jimmy Butler. I mean, Jessica Alba's in the building. I mean, come on.
Sauce Gardner,
Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Carmelo was lit. I mean, him and that's true. I mean, that place was going crazy. And to your point, it was just they had the claw back, and now you're going down to South Beach. Is it really a home court advantage? That's maybe in the regular season because you get a little Miami flu over there for the opposing team. But on the playoffs, are you really getting the Miami flu? Not necessarily, but I will say, though, I mean, the Heat fans eventually in the second quarter, they do show up. That first quarter, it's pretty barren. But in the second quarter, it can get pretty loud.
For like 25 minutes of actual game time, that place is one of the loudest stadiums in the NBA. It's just the first, like the other 23 minutes, because everybody leaves early, and then everybody shows up halfway through the first or at the second quarter. I mean, we were joking, man, but this is talent-wise, this is one of the worst semifinal matchups that I can remember.
And they're going to have to play the winner of the Celtics and the Sixers, who probably are like, man, if we don't win our series, we made a mistake because that was a great chance to play for the NBA championship.
Well, there's a chance the Miami Heat are playing in the NBA Finals.
It's crazy.
And this is a team that wouldn't have made the playoffs.
Lost to the Hawks in the play-in game. The Hawks.
Yes.
Oof. Crazy to think about.
Aren't they kind of like if the Hawks step their game up? Like, we always make fun of the Hawks because they say they don't have to try in the regular season because they went to the Eastern Conference Finals once. But the Heat are like, that's proof positive. Like, you can do that. It does work. You just have to you have to have Pat Riley on payroll.
Yeah, maybe that's what the Hawks should do. Just go pay him like crazy amount of money and get him in their organization.
Dude, no shot.
Anything else you want to close with before we get out of here in the NBA second round? You noticed anything you want to project going forward?
Oh, I just want to congratulate you on your NBA MVP, Joel Embiid. I think everybody makes way too big of a deal out of that. I thought that was the most insufferable NBA discourse and debate that I've ever seen. Like, it was so stupid. It got to the point people were like playing race card in an NBA play or an NBA MVP discussion. It's like, dude, that's not what it was. It was like this guy was really good all season long, and the fact that, like, I don't know, whatever, that's for the birds. But JoJo winning MVP was super cool. We had a good award season as far as betting.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Malcolm Brogdon bringing it home. I did get nervous because Isaiah Quickly, I thought for sure the New York media was pushing him over. Whew, I was getting a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie there, but yeah, man, I'm excited for this is a good second round. I think. I mean, you got the main event, Lakers, Warriors, Nuggets, Suns. You know, if that picks up, that Western Conference series are going to be great. And in the East, it just feels like okay, Sixers, Celtics are your main course, and like the Heat, Knicks are kind of going as your appetizer. Like, oh, who gets to kind of be the loser of the Eastern Conference Finals? But in all actuality, there are some flaws in every single team in the East. So like, there could be a team that just sneaks into the NBA Finals. We're like, really?
Oh, there's flaws in everybody involved. And like we have tomorrow, you get the Celtics and the Sixers, the Suns and the Nuggets. Saturday is going to be a good day. Knicks, Heat, Warriors, Lakers. Finally, Brad, we're back into like there's going to be multiple basketball games every day. But the
Right.
NBA, like, you got to fix this, man. This shit is stupid.
It's brutal. It is brutal. But that, all right, so that's going to do it for our check in on the second round, little projections going forward. Like, subscribe, and share the show, whether you're watching us on YouTube. We appreciate a good like. That's going to help us show up for other people who watch the show. Or if you are listening to us on podcast forums, subscribe, share, rate. That's going to help us become more discoverable as well. And you can always stay connected with us on our social media channels. It is now a new handle here. Our Twitter, our Instagram, and our TikTok are all the same. ISWIS_pod. That's where you can tweet at us, send us a message on the Instagram, whatever the case may be. You can follow us and stay connected with us on there. We'll be back next week with a ton more basketball that we got to get to. There may be some NBA news. We'll see what, or some NFL news. We'll see what happens. But until then, guys, enjoy your weekend. We'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.